Hello, hello. Thank you for tuning in to the Energy Healing Network. I'm your host, Coach Tim. Thank you for joining me today. Normally, I usually have a guest on, letting them do the talking, but today I want to kind of jump on and talk about something that I really find to be, at the root of a lot of different things. Matter of fact, almost pretty much everything if people really knew. Um, what role does, your emotional energy, play in your mindset? Um, and, speaking as a person who spent, I was a personal trainer for 20 years and I've dealt with many, athletes and, all kinds of people, dealing with, whether motivating them to, win in, competition, whether it be, I'm a boxing coach too, whether, mind frames of that or preparing for whatever competition track or just trying to get clients to like reframe their mind and lose weight or things to deal with things, it came back, I know many years ago that it came back to the mindset of the person. But, after some years of now evolving, in my career into energy healing, as a into Enrique and sound healing and things of that nature, hypnotherapy, some things have become apparent that a lot of the things that I was doing over those years of kind of dealing with the mindset of things, I was kind of dealing with the symptoms of stuff and not necessarily dealing with the root cause of things. Because at the end of the day, everything is energy. And so in that respect, some of the things that, I was dealing with, if we kind of dealing with things in a intervention type deal as far as, talking and things of that nature, or setting up goal setting and things of that nature, trying to change the attitudes. But at the end of the day, everything is energy. To kind of give an idea of like how that works, just kind of giving a makeup of everything. Everything is atoms. Everything that you see is, made up of atoms. And so generally with that, to kind of break that down a little bit, it's made up of photons, neutrons, and electrons. And the vibration within those photons, neutrons, and electrons produces energy. And so the vibration, as far as energy is concerned, is movement within a particular particle, or a system. And these particles produce waves that you don't necessarily see, but they are. And so generally with that being said, they you produce within a particular substance that determines the speed or the vibration within that particular substance. And the vibration within, frequency within that substance determines how much energy it produces. So with that being said, everything is, including yourself, is made of atoms. And there are a lot of things you don't necessarily see, but if everyone's seen a, transmitter radio, like the signal where they give the emblem of the waves coming out. Well, they give you those waves, because that's actually, these frequency waves that are coming out. Well, our brains also act this way. And so with your thoughts and things of that nature, your emotions from your heart and your brain produce these frequencies. And as a matter of fact, your heart produces the largest electromagnetic field. So with that being said, if you're in a positive state of mind, what we call high vibration state, then you'll be producing a high emotion vibration. But clearly, if you're in a low vibration with negative emotions, then these frequencies also are lower. So kind of giving a breakdown on, again, everything being made up of atoms, your emotions are also made up of these atoms, and they on with different frequencies. And so with that being said, like when we're talking about mindset, a lot of times what we're talking about is trying to get someone to control their emotional state, their mindset, but generally it's what's within. I mean, when I look back on some of the notes, and I kind of dug into some old stuff that I had back years ago when I went through, I was a mindset training coach. So all of this just kind of, with the techniques that I had learned, I particularly found out that I kind of, basically was scratching the surface, of things, that I had learned years ago. But I went back and looked at, some of the things that determine some of the successful athletes, as opposed, because I deal with, all kinds of athletes still today. And so a lot of the times it was various components of that each athlete had need to work on. When I look at some of the notes here, and one of the things was trying to get, athletes self-image, especially if you're dealing with, high school athletes and things of that nature. And some of my notes were, believe in yourself, you know, all the mental tools are inside of you. You just have to use the tools to get there. Develop the habits and attitudes of a champion. Work, working every day. You determine your own self-worth. Believe in yourself. You are a champion. You are a champion right now. Surround yourself with people and champions where you want to be, and seek them out. You know, just kind of scratching the surface on that. And then, basically, I kind of dug a little bit deeper with some of the notes, and, kind of I, because really, the thing is, you want to be able to address these things, kind of the habits that, have. Getting up get up when the alarm clock goes off, no procrastination, get organized, pack your travel bags, dress for success, show up on time, you know, respect and rest and recover, because you need to respect your body, things of this nature, and then, pretty much, just to kind of, I basically boiled it down to the three elements, that made up the successful athlete, the champions, actually, the champion athletes from the not champion athletes. And so this was a study that was actually done back in 2016. And so there was three things that separated the basically the ones that do from the ones that don't become successful. Uh, the first one, elite performers express an internal drive and commitment to their sport that their almost colleagues lacked. So now, trust me, I want you to understand. I want to understand now that everything that I'm talking about right now does not just apply to athletics. These are things that apply to anyone that wanted to career, definitely starting a business, things of that nature. But because success is success, you have to have a mentality for that. And so let's look at that. Um, you have to have an internal drive. Okay, well, generally that's basically saying that we need to be prepared. And so when I start looking at, and kind of backing up a little bit, when I look at the emotional energy deal with this, you know, and I have basically have a scale now that I usually use, because I teach tools now to get a person to raise their vibration. So we're basically looking at an athlete that does not prepare, that prepares, I'm sorry, prepares, that separates himself from athletes, the ones that lack. So when I go to I have a chart here that I utilize to kind of, just kind of give you an idea of where the scale goes when people really, given basically a visual of how your emotions actually play. So we're saying here that these athletes are willing to have internal drive and commitment to basically, do things that the athletes that, kind of they choose not to do. So what did this have here? So generally, when we look at the ones that do, they have a willingness to do what they need to do to prepare and accept an acceptance of the things and the commitment it takes to actually become successful at what they do. And as opposed to, the ones that don't, they're probably we start still down here probably at desire. And, they desire to be a champion, but they're not willing to, and I see here, willingness to accept, what it takes to actually become a champion. And so, do you understand here? Now, I want you to understand my list here. So, we have a high vibrations, we have the flow state, we have what is called getting by here. Now, I want you to understand that this scale, I want you to look at the numbers. Anything below 200 is called low vibrational. So, up at top, basically we're looking at flow. We're doing okay. And definitely high vibrational, you know, that's where that's always the goal. But down here, this ground here, and justly we have what I call getting by, because generally, and let me explain, what you have is a temporary and a habitual vibration, meaning you have the habitual is pretty much where you vibrate all the time. When you get by yourself and you're sitting by, alone, and you're not, drinking or partying or doing something that kind of temporarily raise you up. You know how some people get a joint, they love everyone, but you couldn't get them to say two words if they didn't drink because their vibration has lifted a bit, or they could be low vibrational. It all depends. People are different. But the thing is that you have to understand that down here, this is generally, and if someone's, being basically honest with themselves, they kind of hover around, they desire a lot of things, but they're in fear of going after these things. This is why we're down here. We're getting down here close to what we call psychological sewage. Yes, you're literally in, basically the bottom cellar of a stink pit, with these emotions, not really caring. That's apathy if no one actually understands that emotion. I don't care. It does indifferent. It does, I don't care what happens right now. And down here with shame, a lot of people walking around with that right now. But they don't know this, because of, and it can be things that have happened to you when you were a child, but and you carry it on and carry these traumas on, which back to why come we're not getting to root issues, because a lot of these things are deeper than we may imagine. And down here at the very bottom, guilt. And like I said, we have a number scale here that I use with clients to kind of, as we're working with getting them to vibe up, you're getting you building your points up, and you're literally seeing yourself, raise your mentality and literally change your mindset, because this is what it's coming down to, literally, as you see, as I could continue to proceed with this. So again, most people are kind of down here. They desire a lot of things, but they're living in fear, and a lot of times they're a little too prideful to go out and take a chance, because you know, what happens if I fail? And back to that fear again, fear that the people are going to talk about you, and the same people that probably don't have any more than you. But when you're in these emotions, you don't think with logic. You think with fear. See, I'd be here all day if I started getting into this too deep, because it applies to everything in people's lives, and it's a big difference on how you live your life here and how you see things in life and how you see things in here. So anyway, let me proceed with as I was saying, the number one, that athlete has the willingness to prepare, and the drive has the basic the commitment to do what it takes to become successful, and it's an acceptance. And the thing about that is, what I want to understand is, like, when with the word acceptance, actually acceptance, basically when you look at the dictionary word of it, it says, believe of what's to come and recognize as valid or correct. So now we're building belief, and not only that belief in what you do, but belief in yourself. Okay, continuing. Elite performers approach training with a never satisfied attitude, whereas the almost crowd might avoid challenging training sessions. Okay, so again, back to wanting to be prepared, we have to train. So once again, we're willing to do the things that it takes to be prepared. And then not only that, but you have no fear of accepting these challenging workouts that make you better. And you're seeing it through a logical sense, because that's what it takes to get better. And usually with all this success, these are the ones that usually start finding love for their sport, or love for their career, love for the business you're about to start, or whatever, as opposed to here. So moving to number three, following an injury, or a failure to perform, high performers were determined to get back to their sport. Low achievers, on the other hand, often express surprise at their failure, saying they lost enthusiasm at such incidents. Okay. So again, so you had a failure or you had an injury. So a lot of times when someone has a failure, where do we go down here? Maybe their pride got hurt. Or, you actually in fear. Because we have a lot of athletes. And, I've had somewhere they were, off an ACL injury, they were back in after about 6, 7 months. And, where someone, a couple may not even return, but a year later, or on another scale, I've known an athlete, and I'm not gonna call his name because he's a really good athlete, but he went through some mental issues with the ACL injury some years ago when him and another guy tore their ACLs on the same day during the playoffs in the NBA, and one was back. And the NBA playoffs is in April. The one guy was back playing by November. The other guy took almost a year to get back, and when he did, he was still so mentally, kind of out of it. As far, I guess you could say he was compensating over the other leg because he was still thinking about it, that he tore his other meniscus in the other leg. So these things can snowball. So, again, you have when someone can be in fear, or even pride hurt because, I've been the big dog all my time. Now all of a sudden somebody, I got exposed a little bit. So I don't get back in the lab and work on my weaknesses and accept what I need to do, have a willingness to get back in, accept what I need to do, and think logically about, we all have things that we need to get better at. So, this is just, something that you have to accept to get better. It's just a learning experience. There's no failures. There's only learning. But when you're thinking in here, you think failure. And then, as they said, some never return to the sport because now they're down here in apathy. They really sunk down into the sewage. I mean, I don't really care about the sport anymore. Might even got shamed. Might even got a little shame, especially if someone, they had a little mouth, going on, and they kind of, putting it up there a little bit, and someone decided to give it back to them, and they couldn't necessarily look at it, with neutrality and just kind of separate their emotion from it and say, okay, that's fine, or a willingness to or accept that, it's all it's all in fun. It's not nothing personal. We're all learning here. When you win some, you lose some. We get, like I just said earlier, there are no failures. There are only lessons. These lessons is the example is, say you took a test and even though you may have studied the test, you may have what you considered failed the test. But you went back home, you kind of knew what was on the test, you knew what you needed to work on the test. You went back home, you sat down, you started studying, you knew again the weakness that you needed to do. You went back and took the test. You passed the test. Tell me where the failure was at. Matter of fact, you probably knew it better because it made you go back and look at it a little bit more and get more detail in it. And if you really took at it and you weren't going in with failure, and you took at it as acceptance, to accept this challenge that you will not defeat me, well, I think we understand how your emotional energy can get you to look at things a lot differently. So, just by looking at these three things right here now, we can apply these things. And I mean, I could be here with this all day, and I will be doing more examples because it really it gets deeper because these things, people are mental health and emotional, state of mind affects their overall state of being, and kind of like mental health situations, which I would never tell someone that you should not go talk to a mental health specialist because whatever that person needs to express, because with what we do, you always want to recognize your problems. You don't want to suppress them. Suppressing problems, suppressing issues causes more issues. So if it takes you going to a therapist to sit and talk about these things, I am all for it. But we also want to start utilizing some tools that you may not necessarily have heard of. This is what I'm here for, because these things, just like I'm explaining, energy is how you're actually made up. You're actually made up of energy, as I explained, and your emotions are energy. And generally, the things that you're dealing with are coming from some type of energetic blockages or something overactive. And these things can pass down epigenetically. It is just from you. It can be from your, generations back. A lot of times people like to think something runs in the family. Well, it does. It's called traumas. And that's why a lot of times, if I look at where some of the people I know, you don't sit consuming certain foods from survival thought process. Say for instance, because it's not a secret that Black Americans were slaves in this country, and with that came a lot of degrading stuff, which was getting you to eat hog, parts and things of this nature that you already know that are killing you, but we still consume it because of the traumas within the mind. The mind is still stuck in survival. Consciously it looks free, but the mind is still stuck in survival because those survival energy has been passed on. And so it has to be healed and cleared, and that too, that a person that I teach that you teach you to utilize to continue to do these things on your own. So then, I would suggest just like using, I wouldn't say that doing, mental training is a bad deal. It's a roundabout way of getting to things, but we have to kind of start approaching things from an energetic standpoint because everything is actually energy. And just like, there are several medical situations that are going on that it still do the same thing. But, definitely within the mindset, as I'm showing here, like all of these things are emotions, and the thing is that, say for instance, if you have an example I give is I've heard Shaq give a story some years ago where, he said that if anybody remembers Shaq at LSU, in freshman year or whatever, he wasn't a terrible free throw shooter. He wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. But he said he had an incident while he was at LSU that he basically shot a free throw, and he saw a fan just kind of fall out and just get disappointed in him. And anybody kind of knows Shaq. Shaq, he's a person that likes people, and he likes people to like him, and that's cool. But the thing about it though, that particular deal kind of, when I look at it on an energetic standpoint, now when he went to the line, he was in fear of disappointing people. So he had that in his head. Now, don't get it wrong. Now, guy, I give him credit. If anybody remembers back then, he did some hypnotherapy and things of that nature. He managed to hit some big free throws in the big moment. But for as he could confess, he generally had problems because he had these fears of disappointing people rather than just kind of going up there in neutrality and detaching himself from what was going on, the feelings and everything that was around him, and just focusing on what he had going on, which was the free throw. But when you go up here, your emotional energy is controlling how your perception of things is around you. And so, that's just, many things that kind of control that, And so then when I dug into, and people have, basically a lot of times they say, well, all I need to do is kind of have a desire to kind of, get these things done. And that's kind of all it really takes. I need desire. Well, if anyone kind of, looked at my list, this is things that I kind of looked at one time. But then when I kind of look back at it, and let me get back to the actual notes I had here from long ago. So desire is what propels you, to become a champion. If you can't determine why you want something, it will it would not be achieved, and you won't be motivated, basically. So you got to kind of, but it's saying that you got to determine which direction you want to go before you can go. And that's right. That makes sense. It clearly you're wrong. But the thing about it though, we can back to my thing again here. Down here, we got to remember now, we here down here in desire. So once I kind of got a better understanding of emotional energy, this is when I started seeing some holes in the mental training side of it all, because trust me, I've taken a lot of mental training courses over my time. And usually desire is kind of one of the things that people would preach to you, to tell you that this is what it takes. You have to have a desire to get there. But the problem is that if you don't have a willingness to accept what it takes to get there, all you have is desire. You know where you go, you know you want to go, you know why you want to get there, but you don't want to accept. You're not willing to accept, what it takes to actually become the champion. And so, and then again, back to what I said about, the word acceptance. It's basically talking about, it belief, and when we come with that, we want to look at also building confidence, because that's also coming with that. Actually, when I look at confidence, the emotion of involving a strong sense of self-esteem and belief in self. So we see how confidence, and acceptance work hand in hand. Again, confidence, the confident athlete or the confident person that's walking around, that's whatever you do, you walk into, your bank and you want a loan. Well, your credit got to be straight, but you look good, you at least be confident. But seriously though, confidence exudes. People, you can see the emotion within a person when they walk into a room. They say they exude confidence. Well, what they're exuding is belief in themselves, the acceptance of what they believe within themselves. And with any athlete who wants the ball or wants that situation, when it comes down, they're willing to accept that and believe in themselves. Desire didn't get them there. Desire is a lot of, how many people right now desire $100,000? Right? And you know why you want it too, don't you? Yeah. So you know what you want, and you know why you want it. But are you willing to accept what it takes to get there? And are you logical about your approach? Are you reasonable? Because if you can get all this going on, what do we find? And then, trust me, I tell you from experience, when you find love for what you do, because this is why I'm doing it. I love doing what I do. I love helping other people. I love trying to set people's minds free, because this really is mind freedom. People don't understand. You understand your emotional energy is being really manipulated every day. And so the belief of not being able to do things comes from the things that are around you and the people that are around you. That kind of comes back to, what was that? What was that? Yeah, let me get back to that again. Yeah, the 7 habits. No, that wasn't it. Surround yourself with people that are champions. Where you want to be, seek that out. I mean, you got to surround yourself with people that's also high vibrational. So if you're around people that are down here near the sewer, you're pretty much smelling it. It stink. Yeah, it stink. I don't mess with grief, because I've been through grief now. I lost my mother in 2020. And to be honest with you, I probably, if as soon as I started talking about this 3 years ago, I probably would have started shedding a tear as soon as I said it. Because I know what emotional energy, and I'm a person who, that, that kind of, basically I've had to heal. Let's get to understand. When we're talking about healing, those of us that are healers had to heal ourselves. And you still continue to heal. But am I proud of myself as far as the healing that I have done? Yes, because I couldn't have talked about this, because not only when I lost my mother, it was basically saying that I had lost both my parents, because my father died in 2020. So the realization of that, I could not get up in the morning time and not think about that and not cry. Now, anybody lost a parent, I don't wish them no one. But the thing about it though, I had to start getting the courage to start healing. Not only that, I had to start getting the courage to not start healing myself. But when I start healing myself and start looking at how I had to start helping my family heal. Because see, a lot of stuff, when you start healing yourself, you start unpacking things that it ain't even you, it's your people. And it just kind of comes a part of you, and then you pass it on to your kids, and they have no coping skills. So now I'm able to I'm breaking that line, not able, but the thing is, I kind of pause on it because I feel like, yes, I've done it for myself, but as my family heals, and because every one of our families have these things that they need to address, these energies that need to be aligned within themselves. It's just how deep it goes. And if people look like me, it goes probably deeper, a little deeper. I don't want to, we can't put a monopoly on pain because everybody's feeling some source of pain. But at the same time, um, I think 400 years of slavery, traumas, survival of a people, again, I have to remind people, that people act like slavery was some time ago, but my mother was a sharecropper, and so how long ago does that make that? The 50s. Basically, still slavery situation. They weren't getting paid. They had to move in the middle of the night because people kept them in debt because it was just legalized slavery. And she carried those scars. So did my father. Same thing. So the thing is that we all have things that can influence your mindset. You can make you start feeling less than if you allow those scars and you walk around with these fears and or apathy or even shame and guilt, because there's a lot of people carrying that around. Because if you're not loving yourself, then how are you feeling about yourself? And that's where it actually starts, because when you start loving yourself and having all that, everything else starts coming. But as far as the mindset goes and things, that I mean, the tools that it takes to become a champion in anything, it requires you to be able to control your emotional energy, to be able to logically, as I've shown, be able to see these things without being in fear. Because think of, you can't sign lifetime contracts under duress. But we all know that there's contractual situations where, matter of all contracts, you should not be signing a contract under duress. Well, if most of the people are walking around in duress state of mind, making lifetime decisions, it's hard to have a confident mindset or not being in anxiety, because this causing these fears. So you're basically thinking of what's going to happen next, but it's not necessarily it's positive because you're thinking in a negative mindset. So and it really not being in the moment and accepting what's happening right then in the moment, you're in fear of what may happen. And that generally goes on, throughout the day. But generally you have a person that's in a pressure situation. Instead of being in the moment, they're fearful of, what if I miss? Instead of just being there, accepting what's happening, focusing on just the willingness to accept and believe in themselves, and things look a lot different. So that's kind of when we get to the boil down to things or whatever, like, I wanted to kind of really address things because I see, as I've stated earlier, the things I'm talking about, you can apply these definitely in business, other life, all of these things, controlling your emotional energy, which clearly elevates your mindset. I mean, we kind of look at how it goes. You're elevating your mind. And literally, this is elevating. You can look at this, elevating your mind, and your mind is down here below 200. How is that going to work when you believe in yourself to either be a great athlete, be great at anything, be a great partner to your spouse? It's lack of belief in self and lack of love for yourself. Um, it basically it radiates in everything you do. And then as you keep doing it until you learn to deal with these things, it just keeps, basically, showing you the same thing until you change, because these emotions also tune into your outcome. You manifest, how you believe. So if you're thinking in fear, you're gonna keep having things that keep coming at you to reaffirm why you should be fearful. But a person that's not thinking in fear and they're confident and logical, They have no fear. Which one sounds more at peace? You know, because like I'm saying, this is about mindset, but you know, and I'm relating it to sports. But again, it's pretty much the mindset of life. And I know there are a lot of things that within our society that kind of they prey on these things. Society itself, it does. I mean, I kind of give an example of someone who's basically in shame and guilt, which a lot of people are because they feel guilty of a lot of things. I have to keep pulling this thing out. Say you're here. Now you come on and the news comes on. That's nothing but gloom and doom. As a matter of fact, you notice when the news, if they give you some good news, they say, well, in lighter news, before we go off, because everything else was pretty much some stuff to keep you definitely in here, for sure. And the other part is in desire, wanting something, but just kind of rubbing right here. Then you got the people, yeah, you're angry about something, but the thing about it is, generally, if you have someone that's vibing in here in shame and guilt, which when you see someone that's numbing themselves a lot of times, that's what that is. This is a vibe up. When they look at the news, this literally is a vibration. A vibration up is giving them a pick me up, even though they're still in the sewer, still smelling it. And most people are living in it. And that's what, I want people to be educated about it. You don't have to live in it. But I know where I come from a lot of, survival and things of that nature. A lot of times fear was passed on. Stay in your place, or however it was, or within your own community, within, various things to happen, survival of police, survival of what happens in your neighborhood. But generally, this is an undertone. Not going to go too deep into it, but even religion. Not going to go there right now. But the undertone, you know, in the religions that I come from, where I was around the neighborhoods that I grew up in, now, at least in the South, um, that's the general undertone. So a lot of things are, how about your job? You know, are you loving your job, or do you desire to do something different? Are you angry with your boss? See, I said I wasn't going to go too far into this, because again, I'll be doing more because this relates so much, and so many people need to hear about it. But it's still how it affects your mindset is the bottom line, And I'm just using different references, mainly the athletic reference, but as you see, most people are successful in one thing; they can become successful in something else because they have the fortitude to do it. But generally, they tune into the right frequencies, which really it is. Because again, the frequency, those emotions that you're tuned into are the frequency that you attract back into your life. You know, that's why. And thing is, if you didn't, let's just say, you had a person who, on a lower vibrational frequency of fear, it's kind of hard for them to understand why a person is walking around in acceptance and love. Like they asking, why are you not scared? What you're not scared of this? What's wrong with you? They're asking something's wrong with you. Why you're not scared? Well, it's nothing wrong. It's just when you're tuned into that low vibration frequency, you cannot. It's hard to discern how someone else who does not carry your fears and thinking on a high vibration mindset can do this. That's why a lot of times people idolize people who do things that they can't see themselves doing. Like I could never do that. But you're just not tuned into the right frequency. It's not nothing separating you from them. Nothing separates anything besides what's in your mind and what you believe, because that's what you have to accept. And before I go, I had to remind myself that even within these notes, it basically it starts told you, to believe in yourself, and all of the mental tools are inside of you. But the thing about it though, you can't. It's hard to know that without first understanding the tools to start clearing some of these energies, because it's not your fault. The thing is, people need to understand, like, give themselves some grace, understand whatever it is you're dealing with, like mentally, like it's not your fault, and acknowledge what it is, and know that people like me and whatever are here to help. And don't judge yourself, and no one's going to judge you at all. And those that do, well, let's show about those low vibration people. And you got to tune those out anyway. They have their own fears, and they're living in their own emotions. You have to be able to make a stance and go back to that word willingness. I could use the word neutrality, because first you kind of have to be able to observe people's emotions without being absorbed by their emotions. And a lot of times people are absorbed by the emotions of people around them. And so then you're caught up with their energy, like I explained earlier, because your heart emits these frequencies, and they literally tune you in. I'm trying to get people to understand. I'm gonna have to keep explaining, that people are tuning into, like that. Someone dealing with grief, they tune in with someone who's dealing with grief. I can't stand guys. I can't stand them either. They tune right in. You know, People with money, it's a frequency. We talk money. People with whatever, you tune in. So you have to understand that these emotional frequencies, you tune yourself into the life you want to live. But it first starts changing your mind to start becoming at least neutral, and then willing to accept, you know, what you have to do. And fresh starts with talking to people like me to help you. I mean, it's very simple too. It just the thing about people is doing things, little things daily, on a daily basis to get them better. Because that's the other problem that people have too within this lack of discipline. Because all of these things came back to the willingness to do things, but you lack discipline, just like people lacking discipline when I was personal training, and athletes who wanted to miss the workouts, as I just stated. They just, you have to be willing to accept these things daily. And there are things like that I specialize in, that it wouldn't take too long, because you literally can retrain your brain. That's the other thing too. I'm about to cut this off in a bit, but while these energies are being balanced, you can literally retrain your brain with visualization, and things like that, the other techniques that I specialize in. So not just myself, but other, healers, even energy healers and things that like that deal with. But me particularly, I'm an energy emotional energy specialist. I'm sorry, sound like a tongue twister, but and that's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about people understanding that, this how much the role is played in their life, because I've come to realize that, like, it gives you control of your life. Like, it really does. People really understand, like, and how it's being manipulated and things, and I'm a sound therapist too, because so you have sound so many different ways. But the thing is, when you become awakened to these things, and you start doing little things to take control of you instead of letting things control you, then you control your mindset. But you have to understand, first you have to take control of yourself to take control of your mindset. That starts within you. And secondly, you're not supposed to actually know what to do, but do understand that there are simple tools that you can do. And please feel free. Matter of fact, I would be honored, because right now we're doing so much education to people about these things. I'm doing public speaking, things of that nature, tune into the network. I like to come places and actually, give you a demonstration, because it plays into your, people that die. It's playing a role in everything, because you are controlled by your emotions, and people know that. So, again, what role does, emotional energy play in your mindset? A very big role. A bigger role. It pretty much is your mindset. It controls your mindset. Your emotional energy, you know, your emotional energy, how do you think, controls your mindset. You know, you got to know a person that's thinking here does not think positive. We know that. So the deal is that we want to, know that you don't have to stay here in the sewer. And this is pretty much what I call the program. Psychological sewage. because I'm trying to get people out of the sewer and up to the sun. See, there's a big difference. Out of the sewer, up to the sun. And this is where you find truth, but we won't get into that right now. So thank you all for tuning in and spending a little time with me, kind of breaking this down. And I will be back with more. And like I said, my contact information for those that see this video, actually, you can email me at Energy Healing Network. That'd be capital E, capital H, capital N at gmail.com. I like to actually come to some places within North Carolina. That's where I'm located, or can do some virtual speaking, because there's no one that doesn't need to hear this. It's just whether you're honest about, whether you want to consume the information. Because, again, there's no one that consists of atoms, and everything is made of atoms, and that's controlling you. So when you learn how to control those emotional atoms, you learn how to control you. So with that being said, I look forward to joining you all again with some of my guests, because I bring them from all around the world. Be sure to tune in, and I look forward to seeing you all. Anywhere that love and light is given, and definitely with that, make sure to love yourself and shine that light to the world. With that,